I am Sherry Nassim, CEO of Center for Executive Excellence. We are a global executive coaching and consultancy organization based in San Diego, California, and we are thrilled to be hosting today's discussion and to share that we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary this month. Woohoo! We know what it's like to stick with the work that you believe in through the ups and the downs through the years, and that it's so important to build community and to rejuvenate ourselves. So whether this is your first time joining us or if you've been with us I want to personally thank you for being here. Thank you for holding this space with us to further the discussion on diversity, equity, inclusion. I would love to hear from you in the chat. We treat these events as community builders, so let us know where you're from. Share your LinkedIn profile if you like. Let us know what organization you're with, or if you're between roles, that's perfectly fine too. As you're doing that, I want to go over just a few housekeeping things to help you have the very best possible experience with us. So first, we encourage you to edit your name and add your pronouns. To do that, just click on the three dots in your Zoom box. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, by the way. Also, if you like, you can click on that up arrow next to the closed caption and then show subtitles if you would like to take advantage of that feature today as well. We've reserved 30 minutes at the end of today's discussion to take your questions. So please put any questions that you would like addressed in the Q&A box, and everyone will have the ability to upvote on the questions that they would most like to have answered during the last 25 to 30 minutes. Our chat logs usually take on a life of their own during these discussions. So we'll be dropping in hyperlinks to supplemental information in the chat, and we encourage you to do the same. We'll share a recording of this webinar along with a transcript from the chat and information about how to stay engaged with continuous education opportunities in a follow-up email. And at the end of today's session, Danielle, my colleague, will wrap by telling you how to register for our spring DEI Executive Bootcamp, where you can earn your credentials in just 6 weeks. So that's coming up just next month. So let's get into it. It is my honor to introduce our esteemed guests, starting with our interviewer and our bestie, Art Benjamin. Art is the Director of Human Resources at PIRCH, a retailer of some of the world's most coveted brands in kitchen, bath, and outdoor design. Art is a passionate advocate in the DEI space and also a very generous connector. We are so grateful for Art's wisdom, his energy, and his generosity. So welcome our friend, Art. And for today's discussion, Art will be doing a follow-up interview with our returning champion, Martina Winston, who is Vice President and Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Protective Life. She's coming to us from Birmingham, Alabama. Art and Martina had an incredibly interesting discussion about building a strategic DEI roadmap in October of 2021. And we wanted to invite her back to learn more about her journey. She's brought receipts, she's bringing the tea, and she even brought the t-shirt today. So welcome. I just want to mention that at Protective Life, Martina coaches senior and executive leaders through strategic HR goals around people, talent, succession planning, and engagement. In addition, Martina leads Protective's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, while also managing the global talent program in partnership with Protective's parents, Daiichi Life, based in Tokyo. Not only is Martina passionate about her work, but she is also extremely engaged with her community. She serves as president, well, congratulations, of the Junior League of Birmingham. She is a youth cheer coach and a board member of the Colette Jewish Family Services, just to name a few. And in her spare time, Martina is a Zumba fitness instructor. So as you can clearly see, serving others gives Martina energy, and she believes that this is a part of her purpose. So we could not be more thrilled to kick off our DEI 2023 webinar series with these two amazing people. And with that, it is my honor to turn the program over to you, Art.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Well, I am really excited to be back and having this conversation with my friend, Martina. I am so excited to be engaging with you again. It has been over, what has it been, over a year? I think it's been a while
It
since we had this
has. It's been maybe
conversation.
been a little bit longer, but yeah. But thank goodness this forum connected us, and we've
Yeah,
stayed connected outside of this group. We've stayed connected. So good to be with you, buddy.
good to be with you as well. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation, as well as I'm sure those who are watching and attending. So are you ready to get in?
Let's go.
All right. So Martina, want to just jump right in with our first question. You launched your D&I roadmap over a year ago. What are some lessons learned so far that you'd like to share with us as you have been going through this journey?
Yeah, Art, thank you. Gosh, what an amazing ride it's been. And as I think about the work that we've been doing specifically at Protective, so much has changed over the last few years. We have had a couple of pandemics, we've had a couple of scares. We've had war, we've had violence, we've had systemic things. So many things have happened in our environment that's truly helped to pave the way, specifically in how diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and even access really plays a role, not only in our organizations, but really just in how we do life. I think our conversations are changing, whether that's at the dinner table. And I like to say here at Protective that if we're only talking about DE&I, in a team huddle or in a staff meeting or in a town hall, then we're still not doing it right. When we renewed our focus at Protective back in 2018, we were really intentional. And those of you that remember having an opportunity for us to share in this space a year and a half or so ago, I talked about the intentionality. We are still being just as intentional back then as we are today. It's really important. I had the great pleasure, Art, of being in front of, and some of you might know her. She's like a beast. I mean, she's so awesome. But her name is Heather McGowan. Heather McGowan is world renowned. I mean, like I said, she's the GOAT. And she was our keynote here a couple of weeks ago at our corporate officer meeting. So this is an annual meeting that we have where all what we call kind of our top 200 leaders come together, and we're truly looking at how are we going to deliver on our business strategy and our business goals for 2023. And I mean, Heather did what she does best. She really laid it out to talk about, how are you going to do this through your people and through culture? Because culture truly drives what's going on in the business. And of course, she opened it up for Q&A. For those of you that know me, and I know Art and Sherry and Danielle have gotten a chance to know me, of course, I stood up and said, because she talks a lot about DE&I and what we're seeing. And I said, well, since it's no longer 2020, and it's not hot, it's not the hot thing on the street. And I don't know if there's many TikToks about it. I don't have TikTok, because if I get TikTok, Art, game over. I'm going to be famous, and I'm going to have to quit my day job. And I'm just trying not to go there just yet, because I'm going to be like dancing and doing all kinds of stuff and probably having tons of things to talk about, D&I things. But anyway, so I stood up and I said, okay, it's no longer 2020. Where are companies today in 2023? And in true Heather McGowan fashion, she said, people have lost focus. They're not, organizations have lost focus. They've done a lot of things to check the box and to make them feel good or to make them sleep good at night. But you can definitely tell the organizations that are separating themselves from others, and those are the ones that are continuing to move the needle. And that's really where we are, Art. As I think about our roadmap and the work that we've been able to do, it's been great. We utilize our roadmap as truly our guiding post.
Yeah.
To help us ensure that we're staying true to the things that we said we're going to stay true to. And it's been great, because there are so many things that we want to do, but as the shirt says, we're not trying to keep up with the DE&I Joneses, because in some cases we just haven't been ready. But what I love is seeing the maturity within our organization since we started back in 2018. And we started this renewed focus when it wasn't hot and it wasn't popular, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm loving, I'm loving everything that you're talking about. I love the reference, you made about Heather. And, I want to kind of piggyback off that just for a second and let you kind of unpack that a little bit, because you talked about, where organizations are in their pursuit, of this work, and we know everything rises and falls on culture. It's like, if an organization is going to do things well, it is going to have to be culture focused. Let me ask, why do you think that is? Why do you think there is still a disconnect in that space?
I think organizations, I think they're still trying to figure out, and I just cringe anytime somebody says this, but there's like, I just still need to hear the business case. And I'm like, what planet? The fact that we are still needing to present a business case for this movement, I'm going to call it a movement. It's not work. It's really movement. It's a shift. It really kind of blows my mind. I also think that it is truly a scenario of, if you don't have to wake up and think about it every day, if it's something that doesn't truly impact you, then it honestly doesn't matter. So I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Someone that is, and this is what you see on the outside. So this is a great example of the iceberg analogy, right? We all know the iceberg. If you're a DEI practitioner, you all know the iceberg. And there are things above the iceberg that we can see, right? So I'm going to give you an example of someone that is fit. So if you see someone that's fit, you're like, man, gosh, clearly they've got it all together. They're I don't want to say thin because I don't think that's the right thing, but they're fit, right? They're in good health. Probably their cholesterol or their blood pressure is in a nice space. They probably don't breathe heavy when they walk up the stairs. All of these things, they're eating good. You see them eating salads at lunch. They walk past the snack bar and they don't get the Reese cups like I do. I seriously went today to Target to get a card for a coworker, and I bought Reese cup bunnies because that's what I do and I'm not fit. So, and I teach Zumba. Yes, I know I teach Zumba, not a whole lot for the fitness, but more because I like dancing. And then fitness is the second part. But anywho, so if you think about above the iceberg, it's the things that you can see. So typically, again, if you're thinking about a fit person, you're like, okay, they've got it all together, but you don't know why. You don't know why they're fit or the other things that they might be struggling with. And all you think about is, ooh, I want to be like that person because I want to fit in some jeans, or I want to fit in this dress, or I want to maybe feel better about myself. But we don't know the journey as to why somebody get there, why they might have gotten there. So when I think about DE&I and why this is still a thing, because there's somebody that's waking up every day that is already fit and it's not a problem for them. But if you have somebody that has an issue with bunny rabbit Reese cups like Martina, who I woke up this morning saying, I'm going to drink more water today and I'm probably not going to have a snack. And then I go to Target at lunch and I've got a snack. And I got to be more conscious. And I think that there's just part of our environment that is not conscious about truly focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I was talking to a group of marketers today about DE&I and why it's important as you're thinking about internal communications and external, and understanding your audience and who your consumer is. I talked about, if you truly focus on DE&I and think about it from a people perspective, this will be a game changer. But we don't think about the true meaning of what does it mean to be valued, to be heard, to be seen, to be represented. All of those things matter so much more. People move differently when they feel like, and move differently, whether it's in a friend group, whether it's in a community, or whether it's in their organizations, when they truly feel like they're seen, they're valued, they're heard, their voice matters, and there's representation, it's a game changer.
Yes, that's amazing, Martina. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. Another question I have for you. Two of your most quoted moments from our last discussion when you were here, which you just alluded to with your shirt. Don't try to keep up with the DEI Joneses. Love, 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 love that.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not ready. And I think that we're not ready is a powerful one. Can you share why these mantras are worth living by in 2023?
Yeah, I think that that's a great art. I'm going to work backwards and go with the not ready. As people, we are really quick to jump on things that are hot. You know, going back to TikTok, everybody's on TikTok. So I've got to be on TikTok because that's what everybody's doing, right? Everybody's jumping off the bridge, so I'm going to jump off the bridge too. You know, if you take that kind of mindset and you think about sometimes you're not meant to jump off the bridge. It's not your turn. It's not your time. What are some of the things that you need to prepare for before you get ready to do that thing and whatever that thing is? And it's tough, Art. I'm just going to be real tough. I'm going to be real direct with you. It's tough to say that you're not ready, right? It's tough to think that you haven't done all the things that you need to do to be able to jump. And I'm going to say stop jumping off the bridge, but to jump, whatever that thing is. Whether it's, you know, starting employee resource groups or, you know, thinking about how you go deeper in your business from maybe a product or a consumer standpoint. You know, maybe it's even thinking about expanding and growing your team. A lot of times we hear in this space of, okay, well, I know there are all these things that I need to do and I need resources, I need financial resources, I need people resources, but have you truly taken the time to understand what are they going to do and what are you going to do with the resources? I've seen it happen time and time again. If you do not have a plan identified of how you're going to spend those financial resources dollars, or the role that you want that, you know, FTE or that new person on your team, if you have not spent time being strategic in what you're going to do with that person, you're going to fail.
Yes.
You're going to fail. And so it is okay for you to say, gosh, man, I would really love an extra person on my team. But if you haven't stepped back to think about what is the role, what does success look like for that person, particularly in this space? I mean, I like to tell my team that we are ultimately working ourselves out of a job. But I am 41 years old and we've been talking about all of this drama my whole life. So I believe that I probably got some job security, but you can't assume. You can't assume and you can't expect. So yes, you're working yourself out of a job because you want to believe the world is going to be a better place and there won't be any need for Martina or Art or Sherry or Danielle to be on a call and talking about how important this is. But we also know reality is we're going to be on a call still talking about how important this is. And so we want to make sure that for me, as I'm thinking, as I've built out my team over the last, 4 years or so, I've been super intentional about when I go to my CHRO and my CEO about that budget ad. I'm like, here are all the 55 things that this person is going to do like in the next 3 years. I'm going to set up, and then I'm going to come back to you next year to tell you what they're going to do the next 3 years, and then the next 3 years, and then the next 3 years. And you just got to be super dialed in so that you can help your leaders see or your organization see how you've progressed and matured over time. And so I tell my team that all the time too, is that if for some reason we aren't showing progress, then it's time for us to go. We can't still be talking about the same things we were talking about last year. We got to talk about new stuff. And we can't be just reinventing the wheel. This type of work isn't a rinse and repeat at all. And if we're rinsing and repeating, we're not doing the work.
That's good. I love that. That this is not a work of rinse and repeat. That there are new things for us to have conversations about. There's new movement that needs to happen. Martina, I love all of that. I mean, I've been doing this work for a while as well. And, you and I connected immediately just because of the way you think about DEI and culture work just in general, and how organizations should drive culture. And so I genuinely appreciate that, especially the freeing statement of where we aren't ready. That this idea again of, oh, I got to do that because my competitor's doing that, or I got to do that because everybody else is doing that. It becomes a check box instead of looking at your organization and saying, hey, I want us to get there. There's some pre-work we need to do, but we're just not there yet. And being honest in that journey of saying, hey, I would love, for those who did not get a chance to hear our first session, hopefully when we send this out, we could send out the first session as well. But I remember you talking about employee resource groups were hot, and you made the decision to say, hey, we're just not ready for that yet. We'll get there, but there's work that needs to be done to lay the framework and the groundwork so that the organization is ready for that conversation and that next move. And I love that strategic perspective of assessing where are we, being honest with ourselves about where we're at, and then what does the next move look like?
And you got to do that all the time too.
Yes.
So it can't just be a one and done. You got to continue to iterate and reiterate. Every November, I pull a group of leaders together. At the time, it was our advisory committee. Now we've pivoted to something else, and I pull my team together and we throw it all up on the wall. So what did we learn this year? That was the conversation 2022. What did we learn this year? As we think about going into 2023, where do we want to be in December, on December 31st? What do we want to say that we accomplished? And I'm gonna just lay it all out there. So, all right, me, right? Last year for us, it was the year of the panel. I bet you we had a panel about everything. I mean, I'm so sick of a panel. We at Protected, I was just like, we don't need another panel. I'm sick of panels. And we talked about where are we in the space now of, as we shifted in our roadmap, we always look at 3 years. So we had our first 2019 to 2021, and then 2022 now to 2024. And one of the things that we're shifting here in this next iteration is really creating this environment of inclusivity and belonging that is led by leaders, not led by Martina or not led by the DE&I team, but led by leaders. And I get a lot of requests for people to say, and leaders to say, hey, Martina, can you come into my staff meeting, my huddle, team meeting, town hall, and talk about DE&I? And I was like, yeah, of course. What do you want me to talk about? Oh, I don't know. Just talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what is it because you want to feel good about, hey, I invited Martina this year. So, I mean, I'm all good. I'm good. I get the stamp on my card. I should be good. Once I fill up the whole card, I'll get a t-shirt or something. And I said, so the team overall, we were like, we've got to figure out a way where we can get in this space of comfort where anybody can talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're the superstar mailroom employee, or you're a senior vice president leading strategy or product development, I want anybody to be able to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what we rolled out with this year, now again, evolution, maturity. We weren't here in 2020. We weren't here in 2021. To be honest with you, the year of the panel for us in 2022, we needed those panel conversations to happen so that we created this space of people seeing, hey, we've actually got other people in the organization know what they're talking about. We've got a group of people that are passionate. We see the level of engagement. And so what we've done this year is we've rolled out each month, we have a different topic that we roll out to the organization, and it's just a one-pager. So in the month of January, it was about trust. It wasn't how to trust via diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's just trust. Because if you truly think about that word or that conversation or that thought, there's so much wrapped around inclusion and belonging. If you think about trust, how do you trust people? What is important to you? And that breaks down maybe some of the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness if you're thinking about inclusion and equity and belonging. Our conversation here in the month of February, I'm sure everybody thought it was going to be about Black History Month. Well, one good thing is you can celebrate Black History Month every day. It doesn't have to be February 1st to the 28th, or sometimes leap year, the 29th. So you can talk about it every day. But for us, we decided to talk about courage and thinking about how Black and African American people have been courageous in their lives and their careers and their communities to be able to shift, change, and movement. And so we provide a little bit of blurb about here's what courage means, or here's some thought around courage. And then we give a few questions for conversation starters. And our whole purpose in this is you can use it in a huddle 15 minutes. You can use it in a team meeting for 30 minutes to an hour. You can spend your entire workday talking about it, or you can print it off and take it home and it's the next topic of conversation at the dinner table. Because again, we want to move it from what we're doing to what everybody is doing.
That's so amazing. I love that, and I'm totally stealing that.
Please.
And so I think that's just brilliant, Martina.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'll send you our one pagers. We're working on March. We've been a little bit busy, so we're a little bit behind. But I'll send you our January and February, and the conversations have been great. And so when you think about kind of going back to the first question that you asked about kind of what are some of the things that you've learned, and I learned that people want to feel like they know all the things in the space. And I also try to tell people that there is no way for you to know all the things, but there is a way for you to continuously be open-minded and continue to learn and seek to learn. And whether you identify specifically as a diverse person or diverse experiences, whatever that is, or if you're really wanting to be in the space of allyship and advocacy, just be in the space of wanting to continuously learn and be open-minded. That's the space we all should be in. Even for me, I say, I don't know all the things. I don't know all the right answers. I'm constantly getting my hand slapped for something I said or something I did, but it's how I bounce back after the learning.
That's amazing. What it's all about. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna get to the next question. Okay. Hold on one second, because you got me excited. One extraordinary example of living by your mantra was that despite internal pressure to do so, you decided that protective life was not ready to launch ERGs. We just talked about that a little bit. Can you remind us why you made that decision and what led to your decision that the company was not ready until 2022?
Yeah.
And what you've done to establish and leverage ERGs since then?
Yes. So this is a hot one. I actually had a little debate with another great in this space, Jennifer Brown, who I adore, and I think that she's phenomenal. But a lot of companies start with employee resource groups or business resource groups, and they really see that as the catalyst to really move this work forward. And I said, we are not ready. I say that so much. It's like, because we truly wanted it to be employee-centric and employee-led. But how do you do that when you don't have the foundation? So if I'm an employee resource group leader and I'm wanting to, get in front of my leader and talk about different initiatives or different work efforts, how do I do that without knowing truly what does protective stand by? What is important to protective in this space? And so for us, we're talking a lot about, again, creating this inclusive environment that's led by our leaders, that is really focused on belonging and you truly bringing your true self to this organization. And we recognize that not everyone is created equal and not all opportunities are equal. So we've been smashing those myths of what does equity mean. But we do recognize that as an organization and as leaders, it is our responsibility to create opportunity for everyone. But we recognize that everyone's path to success looks different. We also recognize that our employees have unique skills and abilities, and as leaders, it is our responsibility to untap that potential. So if we're not doing that, then we're not doing our part. And so as I think about the decision with the ERGs and why we didn't go there originally, it took us a while to get there on our journey, so 3 years to be exact, is because we needed to take care of our own house first, get our own house in order to make sure that our leaders understood their role. And by the way, we still got tons of work to do. But that was important for us. But in the beginning of 2022, so last year, about a year ago, we launched, actually in March, we launched our first, what we call is our growth network. And our growth networks, the protective growth networks, are our play on employee resource groups. And in 2022, we launched 3: Black Growth Network, Women's Growth Network, and a Pride Growth Network. So now let's fast forward Art to where we are today. Okay, Martina, I'm all about learning, right? And like I said, I don't have it all together. So how funny is it that we created 3 growth networks? We really focused, Art, on creating this space of not only did you or could you be a part of one of the growth networks if you obviously identified with the group or had a shared experience, or if you were, wanted to be an ally. But what we found over the last 12 months is we talked a lot about allyship and advocacy, and we wanted to make sure that we had folks involved that wasn't just truly identifying with that group. But we found that we were creating silos and separation, and that wasn't what we intended. And so at the end of 2022, we're like, what are we doing? This is not, we've got people like doing rock, paper, scissors on if they're going to join the Black Growth Network or the women's. And this is more at our leadership level. And they're like, well, if I go to a women's meeting but I don't go to the Black Growth Network meeting because I maybe was busy or my calendar was booked, I don't want our Black team members to feel like I only support women and I don't support them. And I was like, y'all, oh my gosh, stop. It shouldn't be that complicated. And so what we are launching actually next month, which I think is next week, what we're launching here in March is, instead of you joining one network, so instead of you saying, okay, well, I'm going to be a part of the Pride as an ally, or I'm going to be a part of the women's because I identify with that group, I am joining Protective's Growth Network. So I am a part of a bigger community than me. And our specific networks are what we call, I guess, our communities now. It allows you an opportunity to have access to all versus just one. So we're going to throw all types of things out there for people. And I know it does throw a question mark. Well, what if our Pride Network, if they just want to get together and powwow on some things that's truly important to them, they can still do that. But we also recognize some of the topics and things that are coming up isn't just siloed to the Pride community. Guess what? Women are facing those same issues as well. Black people. So why do we have to cut it off at the knees to say, oh, you can't come here because you didn't sign up to the such and such and blah, 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 blah. So we're removing the guesswork for people to say, you are a part of a broader community called our growth networks, where you can learn, you can grow, and you can connect. But if you want to go deeper as an ally within our Pride Growth Network, here are some of the other opportunities where you can get closer and more intimate. Because some of our groups have gotten so large till people are like, I want to connect, but it's 280 people on this call, and how do I connect with 280 people? And so now we can create this moment of a little bit more intimacy with some of the things that we're doing. So I love the learnings, and I love when I get like slapped on the hand and like, what are you doing, Martina? That didn't make any sense.
I love that. I've had some recent conversation with other DEI practitioners and leaders. And I actually think one of them is on our call, Gemma, who just
Yeah.
talked this week with us about rethinking ERGs and BRGs. So I love the growth network idea and where you're thinking. And I love the fact that, again, as a D&I leader and practitioner, as a culture architect, that you are willing to say, hey, I put that out there. I think there are a couple of tweaks we can do to make that better. I don't think it's producing what I thought it was going to produce. Let's rethink this and change it. I think that's powerful, because oftentimes we're like, oh, that didn't work, and we throw the whole thing out. And I think being able to recognize that, no, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means there may be adjustments that need to be made to see the outcome that we desire. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, we get afraid because we are supposed to know all the things and have all the answers. But I always like to say, when a product doesn't work, do we just keep the product out there forever and ever and ever? What do? We tweak the product, we give it a new face, we add an extra smelly to it, or whatever it is, right? We don't just let something bad continue to stay in market and be bad. We don't do that. And so we need to take that same approach to DE&I. We need to do that in the work. And it's okay to say, you know what, I thought that was going to work and it didn't. And here are the adjustments and the things that we're doing, that we're going to do different to make this work. I'll come back next year and let y'all know how this next round is gonna work. Now, I don't mean that you could just keep all the time. Like, you got to get some success, but I'm excited. I mean, when I see, this is like one of my biggest fears, and Art, sorry if I'm going off script here.
No, you're good.
But one of my biggest fears is talking all this smack about DE&I and culture and how people feel. And then people come into the organization and they're like, yeah, she's a lemon. Don't listen to anything she's saying, because that's truly not how I'm feeling in the organization. And I get often stopped, in the hall, in the cafe, in the cafeteria, and someone will say that, that article that you put out there, or that story, or, you said this, you said that, and I feel that here. I feel that within my team. And oh my God, like that to me lets me know that, yeah, that we're doing really good work. And here's the interesting thing about that. It's not Martina. It's not my other 2 teammates on our DNI team. And then I have 11 people on my talent acquisition team, but it's the leaders. The leaders create that environment.
Yes.
And they're just taking the tools and the resources that we're providing them to help them create this space of belonging, where that employee says, I feel like this is a place for me. I can take that to the bank and cash that all day.
Yes.
Yes, because that's what it's about.
I mean, that makes every difficult conversation, every tug of war in executive meeting worth it, when you have employees coming and saying, hey, what you're saying about our company, I'm seeing, I'm feeling, I'm experiencing. Thank you. That is huge, Martina.
And then on the flip side of that, when you have somebody come to you to say, I don't see enough representation at this table, then I'm like, let me roll up my sleeves. Okay, challenge accepted. Let's go. So I mean, it's definitely a balance of not being defensive when someone says that they don't see it either. So you're like, okay, well, help me understand, what do you expect to see based on where we are in our journey? Correct. So I do ask that. I ask that a lot. What do you expect to see, knowing where we've been and where we want to go? Remove that we've been here for 117 years, because we ain't been working on DE&I for 117 years. Okay, so now think about where we've been. And I actually was in front of a few of our executive leaders just last week or 2 weeks ago. And one of our leaders, which I thought was a very spot on question, said, Martina, how are we comparing to our peers? And I don't know, maybe I'm being too bold with this. I don't know, somebody I'm sure will tell me or text me later if I am. But I honestly believe we've created in our market here in Birmingham, we've become in a very small time a leader in DEI in our community. And that's exactly where we should be given our focus and our intentionality. And not only are we just focusing on adhere protected, but these conversations and like I said, I'll share my one pagers with you all. I'll send them to Danielle and she'll get them out to the community. But it does Martina no good to keep all this stuff. I can't take it with me when I'm gone. So I'm asking well spread the love, but it does no good for me to keep it. If there's something that we see that's working, I need to scream it from the rooftops and say, everybody stop what you're doing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have figured something out. So now you all use it and go forth and be great.
That is awesome, Martina. I love it. I love it. I got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So there's a lot of dialogue circulating right now around DEI training is just another fad that can actually have a negative effect on the outcome managers care about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so are you telling me, Art, that I can't just take an e-learning and get all the things that I need to know about diversity, equity, and inclusion and be great? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit. This might be a little controversial. I don't know. But you do have to recognize that everyone learns differently. So we were in the hall yesterday and we were talking about, and some of you might be a part of this, but in 2019, kind of a part of our journey, we signed the CEO Action Pledge for Diversity and Inclusion that's powered, by Tim Ryan, PwC. Is something that we've taken really serious because that was one of our first true, visible, external. We're really putting the stake in the ground. We were actually one of the first companies in the state of Alabama. Now, I know all of you that's on this call like, oh, geez, Alabama. I know. All the things. I get it. But it was a big deal for us. So we really worked, again, across our community to say, number one, why have nobody signed this pledge in the state? This is ridiculous. Number two, we were like, hey, we don't want to be by ourselves. Let's lock arms as a community to do this together. And so there were some companies that were like, we're not doing that. And then, which is ridiculous. And then there were some that said, yes, we're going to join. And now I don't even know what the number is, but that's another thing that, we've been focused on. So anyway, we're planning our Days of Understanding work effort. And we recognize in April, and I was talking to my team about, we got it. Let's do something different. And I came up with the idea, this is shocking because I'm not a reader. Believe it or not, I don't really like to read. And a lot of the reasons why is because I don't have a lot of time to read. I would much rather be Zooming and dancing than reading. But in this work, especially how we've seen so many shifts in our environment and in this work, I've had to become a learned learner. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I've got to carve out the time to make sure that I'm educating myself, in those spaces. And I have to give that some leverage for some people that these type of forums for me is where I learn. I love hearing from other people. I love hearing people's success stories and pitfalls and barriers and how they got back up. But then others, they really need to see it and go through kind of the motions of reading and understanding. But my challenge to those folks that believe that I can just take an e-learning and check the box is you can take the e-learning, and I'm not saying companies shouldn't have them, because in some space, from a kind of a scale standpoint, like you need that because you can't get all, like for Protected, we have almost 4,000 people. We can't get all 4,000 people in a room to talk about. So from a scale perspective, we need that, but it's what you do after.
Yes.
That is what it's about. So if you put out an e-learning to talk about inclusion and belonging, something that we're working on, so we're going to do it. I've challenged my team as I have my program manager, who is he's a like learning and leadership development guru. He's great. I said, we've got to make sure that there's something that happens after this. So after I click complete, what happens? I can't be done. If that makes sense. I can't, that is not enough. And so something that what we're focusing on here with what we're going to be rolling out in the latter part of 2023 is creating these communities for people to unpack what they're reading and what they're learning. So truly for the person that, because, we're going to have some cute videos and we're going to have some cute, colors and stuff. And we're going to have all the right words, all the I's dotted and the T's crossed and the commas where they're supposed to go. But for those people that read it and was like, yeah, I don't even know what any of that means. And the people that like to just click, 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 click to get done. Like, you've got to sit down and marinate in that and have some conversation. For the people that want it. We're not solving for the people, and I would suggest that, don't focus on the people that don't want it and feel like it's just a necessary check the box. You're not going to get over those people anyway. But the people that truly want to understand. So I just read some stuff in this e-learning about intersectionality, but I don't really understand how I can connect those dots. And so I've thought a lot about this one, Art, because I have to, again, as we think about inclusion, I have to recognize that everyone isn't a sit in a round table circle and everybody talk about the stuff. Everybody doesn't learn that way. And some people do learn in this space of, I need to see it, touch it, read it, feel it, type of environment. And I think we need to be okay with that, but not saying that that's enough and that's all. It's a first step, but it's not all, if that makes sense.
I absolutely agree. And I love that, Martina. I am so enjoying everything that you are sharing with us. It is incredibly insightful. I'm sure those who are listening are getting so much insight, who are in the midst of this work or want to start this work. I'd like to share both personally and on behalf of the D&I community that, you and I both know that this work is hard. There is a lot of pressure from marginalized groups to make significant changes to the system. And there's a lot of pressure from senior leaders to keep DEI efforts in check. You've been an inspiration to myself and a lot of people in this community. What do you do to keep your spirits up? And how can the community continue to kind of keep their spirits up and help the workplace become communities where everyone is given a chance to thrive?
So this is how I keep my spirits up, Reese cups. No, just kidding. It's hard. It is hard, Art. And I don't want to gloss over that. And I know that I've been joking around, but this question came up to, like I said, I was on a panel yesterday and this came up, and I've got to give it to probably my grandfather of kind of what keeps me going. And so unfortunately, I lost my grandfather in October, 2 days before his 93rd birthday. And my grandfather was a genius.
Sorry, Martina.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. He was really a genius. I mean, he done a lot of things, super successful, removed tons of barriers and done a lot of things. But the one thing that he has always kind of instilled in me and ingrained in me is, do the work that's important and do the work that truly has an impact. So at the end of the day, whenever your day is, you don't want to have any regrets. And or you've heard my story. This is the second time I've been in this work. And the first time I said I would actually never do this work ever again, because I was like, yeah, this is not this is not it. I was also younger. I'm now older and wiser. And I've been through and understand some things. So I had an opportunity to do it again, but I've really taken this space of the impact is so important. And I'm also, what motivates me is I have two, I guess now an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old that will hit the workforce, or they'll be starting in their new careers and their new chapters, whether that's a college career, whatever it is that they decide to do. And I hope that we are in a better place when they get into the workforce than where we are today. So I have a senior in high school that'll be graduating in May. She'll be starting her college career. So in 4 years, I'm hoping that we're in a better space. I mean, I hope we're better tomorrow. I hope we're better in March. I hope we've just got to continue to get better. And I'm seeing that, Art. I mean, like today with the marketers, I was talking about 5 years ago, we didn't have an interpreter at the Super Bowl breaking down Beyonce's performance while she performed. But today at the Super Bowl, not only, usually we have the interpreter that's breaking down the Star Spangled Banner, but now we have an interpreter that's actually breaking down the performance of the halftime performer. That's progress.
Yes, that's inclusion.
Right. And I know, I mean, again, it's the small things, right? But it's a big deal. Those things are such a big deal. And we can't take those light moments. We can't take those for granted at all.
I love
and
that.
We've got to continue to see movement. We've got to do that. I know Sherry mentioned to you that in my bio, I am the president of the Junior League of Birmingham. And for those of you that might not know anything about junior leagues, if you do know, you probably have seen the help and you're like, oh my gosh, Martina, I can't believe it. But that's kind of my second love is, as Sherry was mentioned, I'm very involved in my community, and truly, again, it's important that we have an impact. But the Junior League of Birmingham has been around for 100 years. We just celebrated our centennial and rounded that out in December of 2022. In 100 years, I am the second woman of color to lead the organization. The first woman of color was in 2006. And I stepped into my role in June of 2022. I was named in October of 2020. I mean, we have a whole succession thing.
Yeah.
But to me, that's progress.
Yes.
And when I joined the Junior League of Birmingham 13 years ago, there were 60% of the women worked outside of the home. And I was one of 3 women of color in our new member class. Today, 90% of women work outside of the home, and over 60% of our new member class is a woman of color. It's progress.
Wow.
And so I think we've got to just continue, even though the work is hard, we can't stop.
Yes.
We can't stop. And we've got to continue to challenge the things, like when we see people in a room where we're meeting and we're talking about whatever it is, I need us to look around the room and say, somebody's missing. Someone's perspective is missing. Someone's experience is missing. We've got to say those things. I need, as we think about, again, continuing to move this forward, we need advocates and allies to speak up when that representation isn't in the room, to make sure that we don't forget about their voice. Those are the things that I'm seeing that I have not seen before. So to me, when I leave and I've got a headache because of whatever, or when I have someone challenging me to say, we still got to do da da da, I think about the progress that we've made, and the progress that I continue to see for, again, like my daughter and my son, that hopefully when they get in the workforce, I hope that we see more progress than we have today.
And that is amazing. Let me add my 7-year-old daughter, who that is my why, and why I do what I do in culture work, because one day I want to be able to make sure that when she enters the workforce, there is no such thing as a glass ceiling, that women of color do have a seat at the table and their voices are heard and respected. And she does feel like she can be her authentic, beautiful self. Thank you so much, Martina, for this time. Thank you so much. This has been so absolutely amazing. And at this point, I will hand it back over to the amazing Sherry Nassim, who will be carrying us forward with our Q&A.
You two get me every time.
Thank you, Art.
Oh my goodness, that was amazing. That was amazing, as always. I think of, it's really culture transformation on such a large scale. And it's not a race. You've all heard that it's not a race, it's a marathon. But in this case, I think it feels more like a relay. You know that you've got the baton firmly in your grip for this period, and you give it all you've got during the time that you've got that baton. And you know that you picked up that baton from someone who came before you, someone who came before them, and there will be people who will be there to pick up that baton. So you do the very best you can during that relay, and you've made an impact. And that is what it's about. Well, thank you both so much. Oh my gosh. Whew. Okay, I'm going to try to hold it together here. All right. Let me turn to the Q&A. We've got some great questions. This is for both of you. So Art, please feel free to share your amazing wisdom with us as well. Madeline Bayless asks, what are you doing, I think, to help change behaviors in order to make DEI part of the fabric of the company? I love this question. The examples that you shared seem to fall into awareness building, information, interactive engagement. And I love also the one pagers of doesn't really look and feel like DEI, but DEI is around that. So can you share anything else? And Art, please feel free to share. I know you've been in your position for just a few months, so you probably have some ideas, but I'd love to help answer Madeline's question.
Yeah, Madeline, thank you. I think that's perfect. And it kind of goes back to that, focusing on your own house first. And that's exactly, Madeline, that's exactly what we did in the beginning of our journey here. So we truly took a step back to say, what are some of the things we need to do as an organization to ensure that our employees and our teammates are going along this journey with us? And one of the first things we did was to define what diversity and inclusion at the time, because we added equity in 2022. And that's the other thing, Sherry, sorry, I'm gonna get on the soapbox for a second.
Go ahead, go for it.
Don't just be adding words and letters just because everybody else has it. Truly take the time to understand. And that's what we did. We defined diversity, we defined inclusion, we defined equity, we defined belonging. What do these things mean for protective? Not the Webster Dictionary version or whatever Deloitte or Forbes or all the other fancy people, Gardner, what do they say? What does it mean for us? And we had to do that. We surveyed our employees. We did some focus groups. I said, when you think of diversity, what is important to you? And so when people say at Protective, diversity means this, it's authentic to us as an organization and who we are and what our culture is like. And so to me, that's where I would say would be your first step. If you haven't done that in your organization, put it in reverse and back it all the way up and start there. Start there first and start to define what do those things mean. I think that's super important. Then start to think about, okay, what do we want to accomplish? I like to say kind of chunk it up a little bit. What do we want to accomplish in this quarter? Or if you're comfortable with saying, what do we want to accomplish in this year? And you can't accomplish everything. You can't do everything. So truly focusing on taking it little bites and then checking your progress. If it didn't work, that's okay. Figure out what didn't work about it, then get back on the horse. And do it all over again. But I truly think that that's important. And I think you put there about awareness. You also got to take people along with you on the journey. It's really important.
I love that. That's classic culture transformation work is what you're talking about. I've worked with so many organizations that really wanted to be a servant leadership organization or transformative leadership or whatever it is that they wanted to call themselves. And they did it for years, but they were stuck. And one of my first questions is, can any two people on the senior leadership team give me the same definition of what servant leadership means? And they would go, well, and someone would, you just go on and on and on, and everyone would kind of nod their heads. No, you don't even have a common definition of what it is that you're trying to, have the entire culture be around this. So yeah, back it all the way up. Let's start.
That's right. Put it in reverse.
Not past go. Yeah, you're not ready. You're not ready.
And something else that I do, I start every meeting with our goals. When I have leaders come in, I always go to, remember, here are our goals every time, because I think that that's important. All right, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I absolutely echo and agree with everything you said. I think it's really, really important to define, where we're at, as well as what does this even mean to us? What does inclusion look like for us? What does equity look like for us? What does diversity mean to us? And I think that until you have those type conversations, until you get the organization aligned on what this even means and what this looks like for us, and get the organization aligned on where we're at. We heard Martina mention earlier about, we're not ready yet. You have to know where you are, so that you know where you're going. And that, again, that awareness allows you to move the organization forward together so that everyone is a part of the journey. And I think that's absolutely important. Or what you get is what I call misfires. People are like, oh, this work is so hard. I'm getting so much opposition, but you're not moving the organization forward as one entity in one organization. And I think that's oftentimes is what causes some of the misfires in the D&I work where we have misses. That's
so
my
good.
turn.
Yeah, I love that. This is esoteric. I mean, something as simple as the word trust. I mean, we all know it, and we probably, use it on a regular basis. But turns out that, the last team that I was working with, I said, let's just do a pop quiz. Give me just think about this. If you meet a new person, does that person immediately have 100% of your trust, and trust is theirs to lose, or do you start out more of the 10 or 0 to 10, and trust is theirs to gain? That's really important. And there's no right or wrong answer, but we come to these esoteric, ideas from very different places. So we have to have a working definition, and that kind of is a segue into. I just want to answer Kelly's question real quick. Kelly Harris said, speaking about trust as your one pager for January, how does trust play into your strategy for stakeholders from associates? And I'm sorry, I can't read the rest of this question, but can you talk a little bit more about, what does that look like? How does your one pager turn from, words on a page to behaviors? How do you see that in action in the halls?
Yeah, that's a great question. One reason why I'm really loving this new movement, I would say, that we're working through with our one pager is it creates this space of vulnerability and storytelling. So I'm sure everyone has a story, and I think that was one of our questions. Tell us about a time when you didn't feel like you could trust someone. What were the things what were the what were the actions, or what was the visible or non actions that they showed up to make you not trust them? And it actually really opens the door as you think about relationships with someone. And I can think about, within our team, as I heard my internal team start to talk about this, I was like, it was really telling. And I said, now that's why she always follows up with an email after she sends, another message. Because there's a trust thing that she has on, and maybe she's kind of triggered. And it's the things that I talked about before it's the above the iceberg, the things that we know and the things that we can see, but it's below the things that we might not know. So what happens with these conversations, and if you think about trust, for example, it helps you see people differently and understand how they navigate and how they move.
So good. So good.
And from a leadership perspective, if you get the leaders engaged in those conversations, then it's huge. Because now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I just heard my leader say, this is important to me when I'm thinking about trust and this. So I can internalize and take those things into consideration when I'm working on a project, or when my leader has given me, something to lead. I can go back and say, oh, she did that because she trusts me because of this. These are the things that I exhibited to her. It's just great. And I think I just saw somebody in the comments say it's kind of touching on emotional intelligence. Heck yeah. Emotional and psychological.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where we're going. People want to feel it. It is no longer good enough for you to just say it. You got to show it, do it, demonstrate it. We've all heard you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Yep, there you go.
Oh,
Psychological safety. There you go. That's really where we are. People want to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the evolution that we're making for sure in the DE&I space. It is no longer good enough for, okay, I'm going to make a statement about how whatever, forget that. Show me.
Yeah. And it's the vulnerability-based trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And modeling that just opens worlds up for people. I love that. Art, you want to add anything?
Heather talked a lot about that when she spoke to us, and she said, today, and I'm going to give you all, because I went back to my notes. If you see I was taking some notes from her conversation, but I would love to share. She said, the leader today they have really good human skills. And that was huge. Nobody cares anymore about the technical experience, whatever. We've seen where that's gotten us, right?
Yeah.
But the human skill, the coach, the connector, the relator, these are all the things, if any of you all have ever done, which I'm sure we've all done it 100 times, the Gallup,
Yes.
Your strength finders. I'm the one that everybody looks at because my top is woo.
I was going to say, you've got to be woo.
My top is woo, and then my number 2 is communicator, and then my number 3 is belief. I mean, I'm like, everybody's like, oh boy, wait.
Right.
Thank you so much. The other thing that she said was, and these things has just really resonated with me and is kind of guiding me right now in my leadership, is the new leader is inspiring potential. And that gave me goosebumps, because I was thinking, that is exactly where we are as an organization, as we're thinking about our new goals from a DE&I perspective. Again, you remember I said, we recognize that our employees are coming to the table with the unique experiences and skills. It's our job to unlock that potential. And then the other thing that she says, that the new leader today is inspirational, and they're caring, and they love. What?
You said the 4-letter word.
Right. What? Like, those things were like not even spoken or heard of in the work environment. And it was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Art, I see Art's taking mad notes. Art, do you have anything to add to that?
I have absolutely nothing to add to that. Martina just completely cleaned the floor off of that. So I'm good.
She cleaned the floor. All right, great. Let's turn to John's question. John said, I love this too. I agree with the training get-togethers after the e-learnings, critically important to let the concepts marinate and provide questions and answers and have discussions. How often do you recommend reassessing and updating your trainings? Ooh, that's such a good question.
That's a good one.
Because people will say, if I might interpret and totally interrupt your answer, people might say, oh, I did the training. I took that training last year. I'm certified.
Yeah, there you go. I'm certified. I like that. I think often.
Yeah.
Because so many things are changing. And I don't have like the every 6 months but I think you have to do it often, and it has to happen with the shift that your organization is making. It's probably the answer that I will leave you all with. So for example, if there's something hot in the market, just because it's hot doesn't mean that your organization is ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I'm looking at within my team. You know, there's some things that are out there that I think, oh my gosh, that's so great. That's so great. But does that really scratch the itch for where we are? Will we be talking over folks' heads? Or will it be too, elementary or remedial? That's the other thing that I would suggest. And I know sometimes this might be a little costly. By the way, we don't have a whole lot of money over here, so I get it. I get it. I'm like finding pennies under the table too. I completely understand. But I would suggest that you always look at piloting something before you sign on the dotted line.
Mm-hmm.
So get a group of people together, a diverse group of people, experiences, especially as you're thinking about in your organization, leaders and individual contributors, maybe they're non-exempt, professional, get all those people in a room and pilot the training first before you send it out to the masses. And ask those questions. Does this get us to where we need to be or where we're trying to go? Did you understand what didn't make sense? Was this too remedial? Was it too over your head? All of those different things. And then break down some of that other stuff too, because what you don't want is people, oh my gosh, I can't sit in a room for 6 hours, or I can't take whatever, get all of those questions. Mm-hmm. But I would say often, updating and maturing your training often, but as long as it aligns with where you are in your journey.
Absolutely. Don't try to keep up with the DEI Joneses.
No.
Yeah, just because the neighbors are doing it, just because it's the hot topic. I also believe really strongly in what I call taking our own medicine. We do Gallup and we do MBTI and, we do all, the colors and we launched a 12-month DEI executive training program last year. I know that we've got some of our cohort here, and I sat in cohort 1 for the entire year of that training. I earned the badges, and it was really impactful to us. I'm not sure that 12 months is right for everybody. So I was like, let's make that it. Let's do a boot camp. Let's do a spring training. So that's why we're using the same amazing material and amazing facilitator, but 12 months is a lot. So yeah, you got to take your own medicine. Don't roll something out you haven't tested first. All right, I see you laughing there. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Benjamin?
No, I'm taking I'm letting her lead. She's doing amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
I love that. Okay, let's see. Let's do another question. I think we've got time for, let's see. Here's another John question. Question from John. So John says, so much of what we are allowed to do is validated by data. That's true. Is there a right way or a wrong way to collect and assess data? And he's getting at, how would you recommend gathering data outside of an organizational survey? So I know last time that Art interviewed you, when you talked about, and I also heavily subscribe to your, we can't boil the ocean. I know we want to do everything, and guess what? 12 months goes by really fast. Let's just pick what we absolutely know that's, what we need to be working on and what we can make progress on this year. So how did you, maybe I can interpret John's question for him about how did you go about gathering not only the baseline data, but maybe also whether or not you're making progress on data? Is it survey, pulsing? How do you know?
Yeah, that's a great, John. Thank you for asking that question. Data is so important because it shows your progress or your lack thereof. So data is super important. We've matured so much as an organization within our data. When we first started in this journey, seriously, Sherry, I feel like I was walking around like, okay, yes, female, okay, check. Okay, yes, I think person of color, maybe, yeah, sure. I mean, that's kind of where we were. We've matured a lot. We actually use a people analytics software called Visier. And it's been great. I'm not sure if some of you all are using Visier or know about it, but it's a really great way, not only for obviously our HR teams to have that data, but it's also visible to our leaders. So our leaders can drill down and see that data, but really where we focus, we wanted to understand kind of the life cycle overall to see the movement. Now, you're not going to see this movement happen in a lot of like every day or every month. We focused on tracking per quarter. So we were looking at each quarter, what was our employee count? And we focused on women and people of color because that was our particular, focus at the time. And that's something that we're continuing to focus on is our gender diversity and our racial diversity. And we focused on what's our starting point, and then the life cycle. So our promotions, our terminations, and then what's the end result. So we look at that quarter over quarter. And we've specifically focused on our leadership levels at a certain level. We were looking at our director levels to say, okay, where are we seeing the movement and not? Where are we seeing the movement? And we really start to be able to, especially once we got this new people analytics system, we were really able to drill down. Can you spell that? Is it busier? Oh, busier. I feel busier, but it's busier. It's V as in Victor, ISIER, busier.
Thank you.
It's probably my country accent that's got.
It's late. It's late in Birmingham, people.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're welcome.
You're
welcome, John. But yes, busier is the system. And so now we can truly drill down to see, okay, if we're seeing a decrease in our women of color in this particular job grade or function, why and where? Is it a particular leader? So that's one thing that we look at. The other thing that we do, we actually launched today, so this is perfect. Each quarter, we administer a pulse survey. So our pulse surveys are very quick hits, 20, 25. This time it's actually 31. I don't know how we got on 31, but 31 questions. And every pulse survey, I embed some DEI questions into that survey. And so that's another measurement. And I truly use that opportunity to focus on inclusion and belonging in our pulse surveys, because those are the things that really help us to see our work efforts and our work initiatives and our programming and the things. Do people truly feel it? Do they feel it? Do they see it? And so we leverage our pulse surveys to get that, to get that feedback. So I will definitely say if your organizations have an opportunity, you got to get the data, you got to understand how people are feeling, and then you need to see the movement. You got to see the movement within your organizations. And I am happy, my partner who heads up our people analytics and HRIS team, we are a partner in data crime. He's a data guru, and we've just really worked together to try to solve and understand our data better. So would love to introduce you all to him. He would just be so tickled to talk about data.
I love that. I love that.
And DEI, he would love it.
It sounds like the people analytics tool that you have allows you to do the drill down and say, is it a manager thing? And if so, it's not a bad manager. Maybe you just need to do some re-education there. Or I love that. But yeah, walking around with that pen and paper only gets you so far.
Oh, geez. See, we've matured. We've matured.
So it's the qualitative and the quantitative. You really do need to be able to marry the two. All right. Art, give me a head nod if you want. Oh, you're going to add something?
No, I just want to add that I think the theme that I've taken away from this conversation with Martina is progress. And I think that has been the theme of what she's talked about is where you've been and where you're at. And as long as there's progress, as long as you see the needle moving, you're not responsible for keeping up with anybody else, but it's just about making progress and moving the needle. And so I think that has been one of the things I want to just add as we're kind of closing out, that really this work is about moving the needle and making progress and comparing where you're at now to where you were. Do you see progress? And if so, then you're doing it. So that was it.
Love that.
Art, I think that's so important. I appreciate you kind of tying a bow a little bit. I'm not sure if I internalized that. You said it so beautifully. But I think you're absolutely right, because I think sometimes we get caught up in keeping up with the, I know I'm promise we're not trying to beat this horse, but it's so easy for us to look to the right, to the left, in front and behind us to see what everyone else is doing, and who cares what everybody else is doing. Really focus on what you are doing, and going back to, are you seeing progress in your organization? Now, we're not done at Protective. We've got a long way to go. Like, I'm so fired up about what's going to happen in 2024 for us. And it's going to be some deep things that we got to figure out in 2023 to get us going. But I just think that it's important for us to be okay with the progress that we've made. But if you don't see progress, then feel comfortable putting it in reverse and saying, what have I not done? And where do I need to make some changes? And also continuing to tell your story on the things that you're doing. I'm excited and proud to announce that for the first time, we will be launching a diversity, equity, inclusion protective year in review. We've never done that before.
How nice. Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
so
wonderful.
I think that we're ready for that. We have not always been ready. This is the first time we'll actually be sharing our data to everybody. And it's taken us a long time to be able to do that. And I'm really proud. We've got a good story to tell, and it's a catalyst to what's to come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for your generosity. When you said share it, I'm just assuming you're sharing it with everyone, like outside the protective community as well. I love that. Oh my gosh, that's terrific. Yeah, I mean, you're not talking about widgets here. You're not talking about something that's tangible. You're talking about people, and people have, competency issues, and they have character issues that they may just not be aware of. And to really ask people to move the needle on, on those behaviors takes time. And we have to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're going to fall, they're going to have some breakthroughs, and they're going to have some breakdowns. And you have to keep reinforcing it, say, it's okay, the arrow's pointing in the right direction. And then, collectively, we are making progress. It's not, we're not going to show quarterly, returns, or quarterly numbers may not so much. It may be more qualitative, but we're making progress, and we're moving that baton. I see Danielle is coming on. Here is my amazing colleague, Danielle, who makes all of this happen. Thank you so much, Danielle. And I think you're going to wrap it up for us. And Martina, before I go, just so good to see the two of you again. It's always such a pleasure. These are some of my absolute favorite days of the year. And thank you again so much. Thank you for your generosity, both of you.